Hello, my name is Justin Derisi, and I am the content marketer here at StayN. Welcome to the latest installment of our best practice series entitled Mastering Automation to Support a Lean Staff and Enhance Operations. Today's presentation will be approximately 45 minutes long. I do have quite a few slides to go through, so let's get right into it. Okay, so today's agenda. Today we're going to take a pretty holistic view of mastering automation. And we're actually going to start by outlining the problems that many hotels face opening or reopening, shall I say, in the post-COVID world. Hotels seem to be stuck between an operational rock and a COVID hard place where they're required to deliver increased levels of service and cleanliness with reduced staff and reduced resources. So after we sort of outline the problem, we're going to go into some solutions, and we're going to look into how hotels can use mobile and automation technology to do a lot more with a lot less. And we're going to start with some more basic automation functions such as bulk check-in, automated reports, and a new way to organize contract rates. Then we're going to go into smart housekeeping management. That's actually a big component of your operational resources. So for housekeeping, we're going to look at how automation can enable staff communication. We're going to look at automatic room updates. We're going to look at more efficient ways to manage your team, as well as automated room assignments, and just sort of generally the benefits of contactless service. Then we're going to turn to the guest-facing side, and we're going to look at how things like mobile check-in and check-out not only can sort of get the most out of your team, but can also increase the personalization and convenience of the guest journey. Finally, we're going to tie everything together and look at how automation can be used to actually generate revenue and enhance the guest experience. I see a lot that there's a misconception where there's sort of this dichotomy that if you have a very high-tech automated guest experience, that this necessarily has to be very clinical, very depersonalized, and that simply isn't the case. You can really empower guests to create their own ideal guest journey and actually pick up some extra revenue in the process. Okay, so between the COVID rock and the operational hard place, why hotels must deliver more service and cleanliness with fewer resources and staff. So first, the good news. The lockdowns are ending, and people have been cooped up in their homes for the past 3 or 4 months, and they are finally getting eager to get out and travel and explore the world. Now, it's important to note that the first wave of new travelers are going to be more focused on rural destinations and local destinations. So you can see this here with the spike in anticipated road travel. Right, so 18.2% want to take their first road trip in August, 13.1% in September, 10.6% in October. You contrast that with air travel, which won't happen in any large numbers until 2021. So things are starting to pick up, and one would think that the hotel industry and the travel industry are completely out of the woods. Not quite, unfortunately. Hotels are certainly open, but occupancy is down and revenue is down, and they will likely stay down for the medium term. Now, this infographic to the right here is from a study that StayN conducted with Review Pro and Fuel. What we did was we surveyed 500 hoteliers and sort of asked them what they thought about different aspects of the pandemic and how they planned on reopening and the type of environment that they thought that they would reopen in. And one of the things that we found was that, as you can see from this pie chart, the vast majority, really overwhelming, number of hoteliers do not think that they will fully recover in terms of occupancy and RevPAR within the next 6 months. And a little over half don't think that they will fully recover for the next year. So again, for the medium term, we're looking at dealing with really a prolonged low season. So what effect is this going to have on hotel operations, right? So again, and this is from the hotelier sentiment study that we conducted, hotels across the board are looking to cut costs. And, as you can see from the bar chart on the left, while the largest cost-cutting measure will be in marketing, which breaks my heart as a marketer, not too far behind are layoffs and furloughs. So we're looking at about half of our hoteliers are expecting to lay off or furlough a pretty good portion of their staff. And the layoffs can actually be pretty significant. The vast majority are looking at opening with 85% of their staff or less. You have almost a third are looking at opening with half of their staff. 7% are opening with only 25% of their staff, and there's actually 3% that are only going to open with 15%. So these can be pretty deep cuts. So that was the operational rock. Hotels are reopening, but they have fewer resources and fewer team members. Unfortunately, they also have to provide higher levels of service and higher levels of hygiene. So these infographics are from destination analysts, and they are looking at the sentiments of travelers. And it seemed, well, I mean, this is pretty intuitive, but it's good to actually quantify it. Everybody's stressed out about the pandemic. So almost 45% report daily degrees of, or higher degrees of daily stress revolving around COVID. Almost 2/3, 60.5%, feel like they couldn't fully enjoy a vacation because of worries about health and hygiene issues. About half have lost their interest in travel. If you look at the behavior of travelers, right? So not only just their thoughts, things should be cleaner, but what they're actually personally doing in their day-to-day lives to increase their cleanliness. You see that 80.6% believe that people should wear face masks in public. 88.1%, so almost, well, I mean, a super majority say they either always wear masks or usually wear masks. And then again, 87.9% put a lot of care into social distancing. So you can only imagine if people are worried about their health and then they are proactively, altering their behavior to protect their health, then as a hotel, you really have to go the extra mile to make sure that your guests are safe and that your property is clean. Again, this is the study that we conducted, and over 90% of our hoteliers believe that guests will want better hygiene practices. And the thing is that these aren't only sentiments in the traveling market. These sentiments have been picked up by governments. They've been picked up by industry associations. So if you look at the U.S. Travel Association, the World Travel and Tourism Council, and I think the most famous is the ALHA's Safe Stay program. You have a number of industry associations really outlining sort of best practices for hygiene. And paradoxically, I should point out, a lot of these sort of best practices for social distancing can lower your available occupancy ceiling, right? So one of the best practices is actually to leave a room empty for up to 72 hours after a guest leaves. And the idea behind this is that within 72 hours, any potential virus or germ or whatnot is going to die. And while this will certainly make the room perfectly safe or very safe for the next guest, You know, if you have a room that's closed for 3 days, you know, obviously that room is not adding to your overall revenue. Okay, so this is a sort of a bigger point here. I have a picture of a old Soviet airliner because I want to make an analogy. So, you know, I think every airline on the planet has a marketing campaign focused, or marketing, you know, value props focused around safety, right? So they're going to emphasize how often their planes are maintained. They're going to show how they meet or exceed federal regulation, industry standards. They're going to focus on the type of technology that they have within their planes to sort of emphasize safety. You know, you can think of like redundant autopilot, things like that. However, if you walked on an airline, right, even after seeing all of these sort of marketing value props, right, if you walked on an airplane and the cabin was dingy and the service was substandard, you know, let's say they messed up your reservation somehow, right? You would not trust that the airplane, this would sort of degrade your trust in the airplane's overall safety, right? Because if the front face of the airplane, if they're missing things up front, what do you think that they're missing in the back of the plane, right? Where nobody is looking. A similar thing can be said for hotels. So you can do, you know, you can have a wonderful campaign speaking to the hygienic standards of your hotel. And you can have a mix of digital messaging, physical signage, you know, really emphasizing that you're hitting all of the industry standards. But if you mess up somebody's reservation, if you're constantly overbooked, if you know, the room service comes 45 minutes late, people are going to start to wonder, you know, what's really going on behind the scenes. They're talking a good talk, but are they walking the walk when nobody's there to see them, basically? So it's really important to get your operations down to a T, right? It's really important to make sure that you're not making mistakes anywhere, because any mistake can really undermine your guest trust in your hotel's cleanliness and ultimately in your in their safety. Okay, so how do we get out of this bind? In this section, we're going to look at doing more with less, using automation to efficiently manage your back of the house operations. So anytime we talk about automation, it's going to allow us, it's going to have three big pluses, right? So one of the advantages of having an automation first approach is that you can eliminate busy work. You can eliminate sort of the repetitive administrative tasks that all hoteliers, you know, sort of have to do as part of their daily life. This will actually free up time, free up personnel to better focus on the guest. We're also going to look at facilitating communication, right? So if it's easier for your staff to communicate with each other or to communicate with guests, they can complete tasks more quickly. They can be made aware of potential issues or errors more efficiently. And you just have a more smoothly operating back of the house system. We're also going to look at streamlining operations in general. So, you know, having simpler UIs, you know, doing something in one click that, you know, might have taken 10 clicks. So really just getting the most out of your team and getting the most out of your technology. Now more than ever, hoteliers should be focused on serving guests, not navigating cumbersome processes. Really, you know, it's everybody's nervous about traveling. You really should be focused on the guests and, you know, creating a safe environment and not on fiddling around with an outdated user system. Okay, so auto assign and bulk check-in. Manual room assignments can be time consuming and repetitive, especially when guests have special requests. Faulty assumptions can lead to missing guest requirements and overbooking portions of the house, right? So if you do things manually, not only is it taking a lot of time, but you have a greater chance of making an error and, you know, having that error lead to a negative review. Instead of spending time pre-assigning rooms while guesstimating how best to balance the house, our Rover PMS has a auto-assign function so you can better meet guest demands within the confines of your budget and your occupancy forecast. So for those who don't know, Rover is our flagship PMS module. It runs on the cloud and it allows your staff to access really every facet of your hotel from an iPad or from a tablet. Room assignment can be made even more streamlined by a bulk check-in function where all arrivals can be checked in at the same time, assuming that the room is assigned, vacant, and in order. So again, this is a sort of a fundamental function of your front desk agent. And here, automation can save them time and can also help them provide the guest with a better experience because you're giving the guests what they want. The contract module. So this, strictly speaking, isn't automation, but I did want to bring it up because it's going to make organizing your rates much, much easier. So we had a problem in, so a lot of our customers last year wanted us to basically simplify the rate management system. Simplify the user interface for sort of managing the rates. And we looked into our system, and what we discovered was that a lot of hotels had literally hundreds of rates that were tied to individual contracts that had the exact same rates, right? So let's say your standard contract with a corporate partner would be 10% off your room, right? So for each corporate partner, you would have 10%, 10%, 10%, 10%. You do this over all of your corporate partners and figure you have some miscellaneous rates in there to begin with, and it can magnify pretty quickly. So what we actually did was we redesigned Rover's entire core rate architecture to organize rates according to their contract number rather than the rate code, right? So if you have a corporate contract, if you have a corporate contract, you can assign them different rates for different situations, and you don't have to sort of clone different rate codes if you're essentially going to offer the same partnership contract to different people. By making this change, we're able to reduce the number of rate codes from thousands to the low hundreds. That's dramatically simplifying the user interface and ultimately saving your rate manager's time, right? So you don't have to sift through hundreds of cloned rates. You can kind of get to the point. Automated schedule reports. This is just another feature that can save you time at the end of the day. Every hotel sort of wants to, display their analytics. They want to see how they were doing on different metrics during the day. And it takes time if you have to manually sort of generate different reports and then manually send them to relevant team members. With Rover, you can do this fairly automatically. So you can schedule whichever reports that you want. You can schedule them on the date that you want to run, how often they should be run, and then also who they should be sent to. And so again, just sort of figuring out your hotel's metrics should not take an extensive amount of time. Smart housekeeping management. Staff communication, automatic room updates, task management, automated room assignment, and the benefits of contactless service. So, housekeeping is really central in this post-COVID world, and it's really important that when you are meeting these enhanced cleanliness standards, that you really don't miss a beat. And especially if you're doing this with a reduced housekeeping staff, you really do need to turn to technology to get the most out of each team member. Okay, so enhanced hygiene is the new industry standard. I mentioned this a little bit at the beginning, but I just want to delve a little bit more in depth. So we have a number of industry standards coming out, and each of these organizations, so the WTTC, the US Travel Association, and the AHLA, they all have white papers that can be pretty extensive, detailing, how these standards should play out on a very granular level. But there are some common themes. Promoting hand washing and sanitizer use is a given. Hand sanitizers should be at major employee or guest entrances and contact spots. Signage is really important. So reminding guests and employees to wear masks and social distance. You should have communication really on a digital level and then also on a physical level. Enhanced cleaning procedures with the frequent cleaning of high traffic areas. So guest elevators, check-in stations, public bathrooms. Hilton actually made a point of wrapping the remote, the TV remote in each room in plastic, sort of showing people that, we realize that everybody, uses a remote, right, to access the TV, maybe to access some sort of guest functions. And we recognize that this is a high touch area, and that we want to make sure that this object is perfectly sanitary and perfectly safe for the next guest to use. Housekeeping staff should observe social distancing when interacting with guests. So they shouldn't enter a guest room during a stay unless specifically asked to. Physical distancing for guests and employees of at least 6 feet in dining rooms, lobbies, training classrooms, etc. So a lot of this is, reorganizing the physical space in your hotel to accommodate for social distancing. We're going to see highlight this a little bit later on when we talk about guest-facing check-in. By using a mobile check-in function or by using a kiosk check-in, you can actually spread these kiosks out in your library so that they can facilitate social distancing. Of course, one thing that I thought that was really interesting was that each one of these associations recommended some form of contactless check-in when possible, right? It's a lot safer for someone to check in using their mobile device than it is for them to check in with another physical human being. Even if you do provide your staff with PPE, there is still a risk that some transfer of germs could happen. So the traditional method of housekeeping isn't going to cut it in this new post-COVID era. You can't deliver enhanced cleanliness with a reduced staff using the old clipboard and walkie-talkie method, right? So for one thing, it's very difficult and time-consuming to optimize your team's productivity. If you have to organize who's going to clean what room, using a spreadsheet, it's going to take a lot of time, and there's going to be errors, and there's going to be inefficiencies. If room updates are communicated manually through a walkie-talkie, you increase the probability that there's going to be an error, right? Nobody likes to have that knock on your door at 7 in the morning, someone asking if you need to have your room cleaned, right? It's so much better to have an automatic room update so that your entire staff knows that, okay, this individual is still in their room. Wait until that room is vacant in order for you to start cleaning. How can you be ensure enhanced cleaning protocols are implemented every single time? If you're doing the clipboard and walkie-talkie method, quite frankly, you can't. It relies too much on manual human input, and so it will be vulnerable to human error. But there is a better way. Mobility lets you streamline housekeeping. So I mentioned before about the instant reaction to room updates. So if you have queued rooms or room moves or upsells or early check-in or late checkout, all of this information is going to be communicated automatically to your staff members. We see the housekeeping attendant in the photograph is operating the same tablet that would be given to all your staff. So she can have updates really as they occur. View room status and housekeeping updates instantly and then react to them. Staff can also auto-assign tasks to housekeeping or other departments without having to physically interact with guests. So again, especially if this is sort of integrated with a guest messaging system, right? So let's say I need an additional cot for my room, or let's say I need room service or extra towels or extra shampoo or whatever. I can communicate with staff using completely contact, without any physical contact, using a guest messaging system. This can then be transmitted instantly to the relevant staff member, and then they can deliver my request more quickly and, quite frankly, more safely. Enhanced checklists and performance metrics. So we're going to see in a couple of screens that you can make pretty granular task lists for housekeeping, and by having it connected to their tablet, they can check off each job as they complete it, and you can get a real-time understanding of really who's cleaning what, and which rooms are ready to go and which rooms are still out of order. So what are the results? These are internal numbers, but we've seen a 20% increase in room attendant productivity with our housekeeping module, and also an 80% decrease in calls to the front desk. So really, your staff is becoming more efficient and your guests are happier using automation. So this is looking at the some screenshots of the housekeeping module within Rover. And so on the left, you can see the auto assign function for staff managers. So here you can auto assign tasks or rooms rather based on either just equally assign them out, or you can do it by section. And you can actually customize the sections in your hotel so that your housekeeping staff don't have to sort of run from one wing of the hotel to the other. You could theoretically do suites or VIP rooms if they have sort of specialized or enhanced cleaning procedures. You could put those into one section. If you do need to make additional custom changes beyond the auto assign, you can also drag and drop each of those rooms. So if I guess if you don't want M. James to clean room 007, maybe James Bond wants some enhanced cleaning, you can just drag and drop it down to our Smiths column. And then so looking at on the right, you can see the view from the employee standpoint. So each employee will see which rooms they have, and then there are checkbox functions so that they'll know or that they can tell the rest of the hotel staff when rooms are available. So I mentioned the task lists, so you can fully customize your task list. And on the left, you can see sort of the types of tasks that you could theoretically give to your staff. You can actually list the completion time, so you can have a pretty good estimate of how long. Well, first of all, how much work you're giving to each team member, and then how long each task should take. So then you can also bundle this up into analytics later. What's really interesting is that you can literally take the some of the best practices that I mentioned before, right? So, for example, the AHLA has very detailed best practices for housekeeping. So you could literally take that document and construct that within Rover and have a direct link between the best practices and then what your staff do every day. Okay, staff communication and program management. So on the left, both screens really are a sort of a manager screen. So you can very quickly see, which tasks have been assigned, which tasks are completed, how many rooms you have to each task, and which staff members are assigned to each task. And then using the sort of chevron symbol, you can get a drop-down menu and get really granular in terms of what daily cleaning means, for example, right? So you have a departure clean, extended stay cleaning, stay over service, and then emptying any ashtrays. I didn't know we had smoking rooms these days, but I guess we do. Housekeeping task list continues. Oh, okay. So Alice is actually another housekeeping, it's a third-party housekeeping module that we integrate with. And Alice is really good in case you have a very large housekeeping team or you want to do some very advanced housekeeping functions. The reason why I bring them up is that they actually have a free checklist that they offer that deals with COVID-related procedures. So we're looking at preventative maintenance, operating with low occupancy, checklists for temporarily shutting down the hotel, and then also checklists for operating while closed. Obviously, these checklists are made for a mass audience. They might not hit every point that your hotel has to hit, but it's certainly a really good place to start. And if you're kind of wondering, hey, how do I, where do I start in, enhancing my cleanliness procedures in this post-COVID era? The Alice checklist would be a good place to start. And of course, the best practice white papers that I mentioned earlier. Okay, so now we're going to look at the guest-facing part of the presentation. So we're going to look at mobile check-in and mobile checkout, and then later we'll look at sort of increasing, using automation to increase customer service and increase revenue. So there's a lot wrong with the traditional method of checking in your guests, right? So before mobility and well before COVID, people would check in at a big granite front desk at the front of your lobby. People would wait in long lines. When they finally got to see the front desk official, they would have to have a really scripted check-in conversation. At the end of the conversation, the attendant would sort of ask whether they wanted to quote unquote supersize their room. And ultimately, this was a very time-consuming and tedious process. There's really no personalization, so you only have one option to check in, and that's through the front desk. Any upsell would be forced. If I've been waiting in line for 20 minutes, I'm really not going to be open to, spending more money. I just want to get on with my stay. Looking from a design aspect or an aesthetic aspect, the front line or the front desk would dominate the lobby, kind of turning the lobby into an overgrown waiting room rather than a space that you can actually engage with your guests. And of course, it's unhygienic, right? So in an age of social distancing, forcing everyone to congregate in one line, in one location in the lobby, is certainly going to promote the transfer of germs. It's also inefficient, right? So if you want to reduce that line in the traditional method, well, you have to devote more staff members to your front desk. So again, if we want to eliminate these tedious administrative tasks that sort of prevent your staff from actually helping your guests, you don't want to have 6 people at the front desk, saying the same check-in script. There has to be a better way. And indeed there is. So with a mobile PMS, you can give your guests a choice on a number of different levels. So guests can choose to check in through their mobile device. So with Stay in Touch, that would be our Zest Web function. So the Zest Web function operates on any browser. You don't need to download an app. And it allows guests to check in through their smartphone. Guests can also check in with a smart kiosk. That's our Zest Station product. So smart kiosks can be strategically placed in the lobby. It's also worth noting that our Zest Station product runs on a tablet. So it's very versatile in terms of where it can be placed and also the aesthetics, right? So you can use any number of sort of enclosures for the kiosk. You can really make it blend into your own lobby's branding. Guests can also check in with a friendly hotelier. The difference is that with Rover PMS, a hotelier can interact with guests from anywhere in the hotel, not just at the front desk. So they can meet the guests where they are. They will have access to the entire hotel through their PMS, so they can process requests on the spot. And always, it's good to arm your staff with the proper PPE, right? So masks, gloves, hand sanitizer. It's really important to keep your staff and your guests safe. So guests can not only choose the method of checking in, but they can also choose how they want to organize their stay, how they want to organize their guest journey. So through Zest Web and Zest Station, guests can choose early check-in or late checkout. You can actually monetize all of this. Guests can choose room preferences. They can also choose various room upgrades or amenities. The point is you can give guests more choice, a faster check-in experience, and do so with fewer staff members. So your guests win and your staff wins. So this is showing how you can automate the entire check-in process, right? So with a guest-facing mobile check-in, that's the first part. Our PMS can also integrate with third-party contactless payments and keyless entry platforms, right? So you can check in, you can pay, and you can receive your key all through your smartphone. So if you want to, you could make it so that your guests can check in without ever having to interact with a staff member. This saves you time. This gives the guest more personalization and convenience, and it's also incidentally a lot safer. The WHO, specifically with cash and even credit cards, every time you have a bunch of people touching a single physical object, whether that's a credit card, whether that's money, whether that's a room key, you increase the chance of transmitting germs. So if you can eliminate these physical objects from the check-in process, you're gonna create a safer experience for your guests. I've mentioned guest messaging before, but this is really important, not only for personalizing the guest journey, right? Because I can sort of check in with the staff through Facebook or SMS or other messaging functions. But it's also safer because we're increasing physical distance. And it's more efficient with your staff. I know personally I can talk to 5 or 6 people on Facebook or on a text platform, whereas if I'm talking on the phone or talking face to face, it's very difficult to do anything more than one-on-one. So automated upgrades, upsells, and loyalty programs. So these are looking at the different screens in Zest Web and Zest Station that where you can offer your guests different options to enhance their stay. So you can look at upgrading their room. And notice how you actually have pictures of the room. This is really important because you can directly show your guests, what they're getting when they upgrade to that junior suite, or they upgrade to the presidential penthouse or something like that. Monetized early check-in or late checkout. I really like this option. I know that every time I go on a vacation, the last night that I'm out, I always like to stay out a bit late, and therefore I like to sleep in a bit later. And just knowing that, with a couple of clicks on my mobile phone, I can get a couple of more hours to relax on my checkout day, I would definitely be willing to spend money for that. On the far right, this is actually a screen from our Zest Station. But it shows you the different packages that you can offer. So champagne, maybe a baby cot, a birthday package. I would just mention that in the age of COVID, you should probably be mindful of hygiene when offering these packages. So having a giant open fruit basket would not be very good. If you're going to offer those snacks and drinks, for example, you probably would want to have them in a single-serve package rather than in some kind of open container. It also would be a really good idea to offer a hygiene package or a COVID preparedness package. So if you think about it, pre-COVID, you had sundry shops or little gift shops in hotels in case somebody forgot their toothbrush or forgot a tie or forgot aspirin or something like that. And these days, it would be a good idea to offer people, masks, sanitizer, gloves, bandanas, things like that, in case they forgot them on their trip. A new function in Zest Web is the addition of loyalty programs. So it's really important to facilitate loyalty, especially in this post-COVID era. Travelers, like I mentioned before, travelers are more likely to go to hotels that are closer to home They're more likely to go to venues that they know and that they feel safe with. So it's really important to facilitate loyalty. And the best way to do that is, to make it really easy for your guests to get the benefits from their loyalty program right up front. And if they're not in the loyalty program, to just let them know that a program exists right at check-in, and then to make it easier for them to sign up to such a program. Another function that we have in Zest Web and Zest Station is COVID messaging. So, I mentioned before that it's really important to communicate sort of COVID safety message, or COVID safety updates and sort of updates in general through a number of different formats. So digitally and through physical signage. But here you can actually, show your COVID policies to your guests directly at their phone at the time of check-in. So, you just click on COVID-19 updates and you can get the hotel's policies regarding COVID. Guest messaging and chatbots. So I talked about this previously. This allows more seamless communication throughout the guest journey through SMS or a variety of messaging apps. You really have to look at, which messaging apps your particular sort of market, your particular customer base uses. You can proactively improve the guest stay by instantly answering questions and taking requests before they turn into negative reviews. So remember, negative reviews, especially around hygiene, can be particularly fatal in this kind of environment. Everybody's freaked out about COVID, everybody's freaked out about safety. So if someone goes onto Yelp and says, hey, my room was filthy, that's gonna be really bad for your brand. It's much better to, if there is an issue, to handle it in the hotel, because that gives you a chance to re-earn your guest trust, right? People do make mistakes. If the hotel expends a lot of effort to correct the mistake, that can actually look really good for your guests. Chatbots and guest messaging can also free up staff bandwidth by using natural language and machine learning to handle more routine guest questions and issues. Right, so I mentioned before how guest messaging can allow a single staff member to handle multiple requests at the same time. Chatbots can extend your ability to help your guests even more. So, a lot of requests are, are pretty similar, and you really can't handle them using AI. Rover actually integrates with, with a number of guest messaging platforms, but one is Review Pro. And fairly recently, they came out with a very advanced chatbot that uses machine learning so that they can refine their communication pathways and create a more natural interaction with people. Again, it's just another way to handle guest requests, enhance the guest experience on a limited staff. So hotels that deliver exceptional service with a lean staff. So I have two hotels here, and I just want to show how this can fit with different sort of types of hotel brands. So Yotel is on the left. Yotel, their brand is very conspicuously high tech. So you can see the sort of the space age aesthetics. They have a lot of kind of automated cloud-based amenities in their room. They're famous for having a giant robot arm that can, pick up your baggage. They do use mobile check-in. And Yotel is something that would be a sort of a natural and intuitive fit for a mobile check-in function. But it's not the only fit. So the Hotel Hi Ho is actually a small independent boutique hotel in Connecticut. And they, run on a, I don't want to say a skeleton staff, but definitely a more limited staff. They have a very funky interior. You can see this is their lobby space, and they've devoted it to creating more of a social atmosphere, more of a lounge atmosphere. And that's because the majority of their check-in is done through mobile check-in. Right, so they really push their guests to check in through their mobile phone instead of through more traditional ways. This saves them on, the hotel on manpower, and it also provides a more personalized guest experience, and it fits with their kind of quirky, independent image. I would note that this picture is taken before COVID, so these days you probably see some fewer bar stools to sort of facilitate social distancing, but nevertheless, the concept still holds. Using automation to generate revenue and enhance the guest experience. So that was actually a really great transition because I think that there is a big misconception that if you use automation, if you use high tech, you're going to have a very sort of clinical guest experience, and you're going to lose that high touch interaction with your guests that both guests and hoteliers value, and nothing could be further from the truth. So first of all, guests want mobility anyway, and we've used these statistics a lot, but I think they're very telling. 57% of customers prefer mobile notifications about deals in store. So this isn't only travelers; this is customers at large. But people like to be notified when they can enhance their experience. 73%, so that's almost 3/4 of business travelers prefer mobile check-in. 42% of people have made a same-day hotel booking through mobile. I know I do this all the time. The weekend's coming up. Maybe I don't know what to do, and I think, hey, you know what? I'm gonna take an impromptu road trip, and I find a hotel, and then I book it on the same day. 14% of people even book their hotel in the airport departure lounge, right? So really just, looking at this trend towards more impromptu travel, mobility can really help you take advantage of that. This is another great statistic. After implementing a mobile solution, Hyatt O'Hare guest satisfaction surveys increased 20%. And this is from BizTech magazine. So really just on the ground evidence of a hotel who really increased their guest satisfaction by implementing a mobile solution. Automated upsells are more effective than face-to-face upsells. Okay, why is this? So, we talked about the traditional check-in experience a few slides ago, but really when, somebody's checking in, they're not in a buying mood. And there's really no way for the hotelier to convey the value of the upsell that they're trying to sell. The conversations feel forced, and ultimately they're just not very successful. Mobile upsells let you create automated in-the-moment sales pitches based on comprehensive data of guest preferences and habits. So, one of the big advantages of a mobile PMS or a cloud-based PMS is that you can develop really detailed guest profiles based around your stay card, and then use that data in other platforms like your CRM, for example, to develop really just a nuanced understanding of your guests, and you can use that to really deliver customized messages. Mobility lets you send guests the right message at the right touch point to make an impact. It also utilizes vibrant images to convey the value of the amenity. I talked about this earlier. So the fact is that mobile messaging works, right? If you implement mobile messaging, hotels have seen a 5 to 20% increase in their conversion rate with targeted upsell ads. This can add $65,000 a year in revenue, in additional ancillary revenue for average hotels. And this is from Mashable. Mashable described an average hotel as being approximately 150 rooms. So look, okay, in the post-COVID era, where we have to work with lower occupancy ceilings. This is partially because fewer people are, venturing out and taking vacations. This is also partially because of our own enhanced social distancing standards. But the point is, we have to make up revenue somewhere, and we have to do so with a leaner staff. So mobility lets you literally, automatically generate ancillary revenue in a way that, guests can really feel how it benefits their experience. And you can do so, again, without sort of taking up additional staff man hours. Automation will free up staff to deliver better service, right? So, again, just because a guest experience is high tech doesn't mean that it doesn't also have to, that it can't be high touch. So high-tech automation can let your staff navigate their PMS with fewer keystrokes, which means they spend less time digging through the bowels of their PMS and more time actually interacting with guests. They spend less time on repetitive administrative tasks, and they can view any updates, whether to the room or housekeeping, and really facilitate communication in between or between staff and also between staff and guests. So the benefit of all this is that your staff can now meet your guests where they are. They can break up long lines. Any staff member can theoretically assist a guest with any function because every staff member has access to the entire PMS. Guests can provide VIP service by instantly granting guest requests. And again, like I said, anyone can assist guests from anywhere in the hotel. So really, not only are you increasing the efficiency of your staff, but you're increasing or you're enhancing the guest experience and the guest journey as well. And with that, I'd like to conclude the presentation. Of course, if you have any questions, you can always reach me by email. I will do my best to answer any thoughts or questions that you have. My email address is justinderisi@staintouch.com. That's justin.derisi@staintouch.com. Thank you very much.